Uh,
All right, cool.
and,
Yeah, go ahead.
And yeah, and like if you have time and stuff, like no pressure. I know you're busy, but
No, I got some time.
Okay, great.
But that's good that you just started recording, so all the other stuff isn't on there. Great. Perfect.
Somewhat pro here.
Nice. Good time.
All right. So, well, I'm just gonna do like a dry run if you're cool with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So, and let me make sure my phone is. It's not recording. It's off now. So, hi, I'm Elizabeth Stein of Belly and Body Care, and I am here today on my self-love interview series where we're exploring the topic of self-love and what it means to different people. And today I have my guest, Alex Obed, who is a writer and an artist, and I'll let you introduce yourself to interview today.
Oh, I'm just the guy. We know each other from Atlanta, and now I live in Fort Lauderdale. And yeah, I'm a sometimes writer, sometimes poet, sometimes poker player. And I've been interested in self-love for a long time. I have a background in psychology, did my master's in psych. But more than the master's, I've just been like reading and intrigued by psychology my whole life. And anyway, self-love has definitely been a huge theme in my life. So when I saw you do the Facebook thing, inquiring for people that, had a self-love practice or whatever you want to call it, I'm like, I really felt called to respond because, it's just so, it's almost like I can't overstate how important self-love has been in my life. So I felt like it'd be fun and worthwhile to share, at least my perspective with others, because maybe others could get something from it, because I've really dug in deep in this, in this arena.
I love it. Sounds like a really juicy one. So if you were to define self-love, and I'm going to challenge you in a sentence or two, and of course I'm going to let you elaborate, how would you define it for yourself? You can use more sentences if you need to.
What just came to mind was listening and obeying. Self-love to me is just like honoring. I would say listening and honoring.
Like what you're feeling inside?
In the broadest sense, like listening to life, to people, to myself, to everything. And then honoring myself in whatever way makes sense in that moment, because it could take many expressions, but it's like my experience of sometimes I think it's easiest to define something by what it's not versus what it is. And like the opposite of self-love to me is when I step over, disrespect, and dishonor myself, right? And there's so many ways that happens, from saying yes when we really aren't a yes, when we're not sure, or we don't feel like it, but we feel like there's, pressure or expectations, or, so we say yes, but we don't really want to. That's like dishonoring. And so that's not self-love. So self-love is, being true to whatever's calling us in the moment.
I love it. So in the moments where you haven't been listening, what has that felt like just in your body, or what have you experienced in your outer world?
Yeah, usually it's some kind of like tightening up in my body, like a feeling, and I usually do feel it. And I think the more you develop a practice, the more tuned in you get, because everyone's always going to fuck up, but it's like how quickly can you catch that? How can you be aware in the moment? What am I doing there? And then if we're doing a really good job, then we can like correct in the moment, be like, wait, I know I just said yes, but actually I'm having a different feeling now, and this is what I need to do to honor myself, and to honor you. Because obviously if I say yes and I don't mean it, then my yes isn't going to mean much, or I'm going to be resentful, and I'm not going to be able to give from a true place, which means nothing's going to work out anyway. So it's not worth it.
Have you had those conversations with people? Like just changed your
Oh,
mind?
I mean, I can't think of it the moment, but yes, I'm 100% sure, like many times. Yeah. 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 Actually, I know. I mean, I can give an example now that I think about it. A friend of mine asked me to edit his book because I can book edit. I've done a few books. And I said yes. And then literally after getting off the phone, I was like, wait a second. I don't want to do this. Even though I need the money, like sort of need the money, it's like, I know how much effort it takes for me to do something like this. And like, there's like, I'd have to charge like an exorbitant amount to make it worth it for me to feel good about saying yes. So I literally just either emailed them or whatever I did. I got back in touch and I was like, I know I said yes, but I can't do it because I, went within and I was like, this is not what I want to do. And he was disappointed, but he was like, okay, I get it. So that was it.
What was like the time lag between, sitting with that and calling him back?
It wasn't long. It was within 24 hours, but I think I made my decision like very, very quickly. Like I knew I'd fucked up very quickly. And so within probably like 30 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 5 minutes, I don't know. It was a while ago. It was about a year ago. But yeah, very quickly. And then I just, crafted I just thought about how do I communicate in a way, my true feelings in a way that is respectful. But, I just had to kind of I had to understand what I was saying, no, and so that I could explain it to him and that kind of thing. Because I did feel a little bad that I'd said yes and now I was saying no, but I did it very quickly, so I felt fine about it too, because I'm just like, nothing's been done, no shirt off his back or whatever is the expression. So
And I love that example because that's how it often shows up for me as well, as when it's like that real contraction, but sometimes the brain is like, you need the money, but you just don't, like, yeah. So it's like, and I think that's how like a lot of people, and myself included, get caught in like that loop.
Right. Well, on that, like two things I want to say. One, see if I can remember that point. I'll say that point first, which is I find that often in relationships, unfortunately, we live in a way of being where it's either I'm disrespecting you, I'm either respecting you but disrespecting myself, or respecting myself but disrespecting you. Like that's how it comes across a lot of times in this like sort of world. Like it's like whatever duality or something where, but like ultimately a healthy relationship is both, right? I get to respect you and myself, but sometimes it's a little twisted and all that, so I think a lot of relationships, people pleasers, they're respecting the other person's wishes but not respecting and honoring themselves, and that's really sad. And that's obviously not self-love. So anyway, that happens. I think that happens, like that's almost like the rule more than the exception, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so much compromise in relationship and so much bad information, I feel like, on media and TV and everything else.
Yeah, well, that's why I think this topic's so crucial and important, because we've got it so twisted. And for example, I mean, my prime example is the word selfish. Selfish is a bad word in some ways to a lot of people. Like they use it in a bad way, like, oh, you're being selfish. And I'm like, I fucking love being selfish. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like selfish is great. Like, be selfish, meaning to me that just means take care of yourself. Take care of yourself first. Like, love yourself first. Put yourself first. Like, yes, I'm all about that. And then what's the opposite of that? Oh, I put other people's needs in front of mine. How can that ever work long run? I don't think it can. I don't think that's sustainable. So yes, but I think I'm bringing this up because I think the fact that selfish is such a negative connotation is completely telling of how fucked up this world is regarding self-love.
I love it. Yeah. So in the places where, so the feeling, so you feel really contracted, but not in your stomach when you're making choices against yourself. How does it feel when you make choices that feel like they're based on self-love?
Yeah, it just feels like, Well, it depends. Like, I think it feels best when it's conflicted, right? Like when, when it just, when there's nothing at risk, then it's not a big deal. Just, okay, great. But like, I think it's when our back is against the wall that it feels the best, when like there's an expectation and I still choose myself, and even like maybe risking a friendship or a relationship, like that's when it feels, the best. Or like, for example, when I called my friend back and I was like, hey, I can't do this, like that felt great because I was going to be in a position that I didn't want to be in for probably the next year or 6 months. And now I basically freed myself, you know what I'm saying? So it's like the added joy of sort of like being a prisoner and then being free again is like so much more satisfying than just, being free and choosing freedom upon that freedom, on top of that freedom. Like that's nice, but it's not the same. It's not as amazing to me.
I also relate to that because I have a similar experience. Mine, though, I'll often have like this like oh shit spiral, like, and like all this anxiety of like I'm gonna lose that person or that friendship, or because it doesn't. It often, what I've found for myself is it often doesn't make sense in the moment. Like it's like for me, it feels like this kind of intuitive, instinctual feeling. Like I just have like this feeling like this is the right, selfish, as you put it, like decision. Like I feel the
Right.
energetic, like that's how it feels for me. And then when I go against it, I feel like that contraction. And I love the phrasing you use of being in the cage, in the jail. And but it feels like self-love, at least for me, and maybe you can relate, like there's this kind of intuitive piece, like there's a logic that's running the show that's like unique to your own soul and heart, in the life experiences. Like I find it's like this internal guidance compass system. And
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I totally feel that. Yeah, I'd say that, yeah, I mean, like in relationship wise, I've lost a lot of friends in the last couple of years. It feels like friends, right? And it's been great, like in a way, because, so many of us probably have and have experienced like relationships, friendships, whatever, that, there's all these expectations and conditions and it's like you don't really understand what real joy is until you've like ended some, I don't want to say toxic because they might not be completely toxic, but just relationships and friendships that aren't fully like supporting your path of self love, selfishness, whatever we're going to call it, like putting ourselves first. Once you go from that to self love, it's just so, incredibly amazing, and that's where I spend most of my time now. I mean, of course, I have my hiccups like anybody else, but now it's like a high just to, say no or to choose myself. It's just you just keep building on it. Every time you do it, like it's a muscle that you keep building, and then it gets easier and easier and easier until you probably get to a point where you don't give a fuck anymore. You don't care about what other people think. And it's a freeing place, and that level of freedom is what I'm just saying. It's like, I'm sure I'm not, there's no there, right? I'm on my path, but from where I was to where I am today versus yesterday versus 5 years ago, etc. Like it's amazing, and yeah, so all I can say is, yeah, it's kind of everything. Like everything begins with self-love, and so, and yeah, again, I just don't think. I think most people are just not really aware how, unfortunately, chained up they are to all the junk that's not self-love.
Any self-love practices that you use that you don't mind sharing about?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first one. I mean, I was in real bad, like I had real low self-esteem, like as a adolescent, and I would literally, I mean, it's going to be an exaggeration, but there's truth to the exaggeration. I probably told myself that I loved myself in the mirror of my bathroom, like different bathrooms in the last decades, but probably like a million times. And like now I don't do it really that often now because I don't really need to. But there was a time when I really needed to because I felt like a fuck up, I felt like an idiot. I couldn't do anything right, that level of that place in life. And to say I love you to myself in the mirror and look at myself, and no matter all the fuck ups that I've done, no matter whatever was going on, like kind of like that support of myself, like notwithstanding all that, I still love you, Alex. And that just did a huge, it was very like it was incredibly transformative as a practice. And like I might have done that sometimes like 5 or 10 times in a single day. You know what I mean? Like it was serious work. It was like serious therapy and self-love, because sometimes we're not going to get other people, even if other people tell us we're great or wonderful or they love us, ultimately it's still coming from outside of ourselves. And that's why sometimes, you can love a person, but if they don't love themselves, then it doesn't really matter, right? They're not going to get it. So that's like kind of the idea of love is an inside job, right? So saying I love you, Alex, is that practice of making it an inside job. And over time, reinforcing it over and over and over again, you start to believe it more and more until it's real.
Did you, I guess 2 questions, like, so that was like your primary practice to help show that for you, was looking in the mirror and just affirming like you loved yourself. Did you find like you had emotions come up that you had to like just sit with and hold space for, or was it pretty easy, like you were just able to like be there with yourself?
No, it was always easy, actually, because it was just it's like, I know I need this right now. I know that I need to hear this. Because like, if I don't do that, I'm already in a bad space, I'm in a bad state. So it's like, it was like a lifeline in a sense. Like this was like a life server that I threw to myself. So no, it was kind of like, I don't want to say life or death, but it was like very, very much about my ability to be okay in the world. So there wasn't really, once I realized it as a tool, it's not something that like was an option. It's like I needed it, so I used it.
How did you know? Like, did somebody tell you, or did you just sort of instinctually know?
I don't remember, honestly. It's been so long. I mean, that probably started when I was like 14, something like that. So apparently I'm 48 now. So yeah, we're talking like 3.5 decades ago. Or whatever the math is. So, sure. So yeah, so I don't remember. I probably got it from someone, I'm guessing. I might have gotten it from a book. I used to read a lot of books even at that age. So yeah, I probably was reading a self-help book or something, and then just took it on.
Okay. So you've never had to like, you hit rock bottom or some dramatic life experience to kind of shake you up into like looking at this?
I guess, I mean, or just gradual, stuff, just like, I mean, I definitely had long stages of depression and just, that kind of stuff. So yeah, this was definitely, I mean, self-love is the way out of depression in my belief system. Like, I'm not saying it's true for everybody, and everybody's different, and there might be cases where it might not work, like alone without medications and stuff. I'm just saying it's possible, but I think for a lot of people, probably, like, I think self-love is like the key to kick in our depression.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Anything else you want to share that you want people to leave with? I feel like
well, let me just think about other tools, because I mean, that's just one tool. I mean, yes, practicing saying no is a good thing to do. And I did go through a stretch where I said no to like everything and everybody. And that was coming from a Nietzsche, the philosopher. He wrote a book called Thus Spoke Zarathustra. It's a novel. I got to plug in. And in the novel, he says that people go through 3 stages of life. We go through the camel, and the camel is the yes person. The camel says yes to everything and everyone because they're kind of like the slave, in a sense. They've got a master and they got to do things, and they got a boss, and anyway, so they're the yes person. And then after that, if most people never leave that stage of the camel, so they spend their whole lives being camel. But some people get to the next stage, which is a lion, and a lion says it's like a roar of no. And then so I can't remember now, but I think the book talks about just like going through a stage where I chose to go through a stage where I just said no, because if you can't say no, then your yes doesn't really mean a full yes. So, and then he said the third stage is the baby, and the baby now can say yes or no, and the baby now comes to yes, but it's a real true yes. And so that's like liberation, we could say. So yeah, just that I went through a stage of just saying no, which was tough because I was a people pleaser back in the day, believe it or not. And there's something really satisfying when at first it's difficult because other people don't like it, especially if they're used to you being a people pleaser. The people that you're pleasing, they will call you nasty things, and you're a selfish jerk and all this stuff. And so it can be very, very difficult to follow through on this path. But if you do, first of all, a lot of those people leave your life, and that's probably a good thing anyways, right? And then you'll attract more people that actually are healthy and support your selfishness in a positive sense, right? Because they want you to be happy and they want you to be full of self-love. And so those are the right people in your life. But yeah, you might have to get rid of some of those people, and that happens naturally if you start saying no, because they won't like that. And then they might just naturally fall off the map. So my second big time movement was saying no a lot. And then once I felt like I could confidently say no without any like real feeling of like shame or whatever, then that told me I was ready to like move on from saying no.
Wow.
And that was very powerful. Yeah.
Did you say no to the things you actually want to say yes to? Like you give yourself like a green card, or is it just no across the board?
Well, in that, I just said no to anything external. Anything internal I could say yes to, but anything coming from anybody else, I just automatically said no to. Like, I'm not doing anyone a favor. I'm not helping. I'm not doing shit for anyone. I'm saying no to every single request made to me that doesn't involve like maybe like, I'm saying, like, okay, you can't say no to everything if like it's sometimes you want to keep a job so you can keep paying rent, so that would be different. But anything that was like an extraneous request that didn't require me to do it based on my like needs type thing, like if I could say no, which was most of the time, and maybe with me I was probably in a different spot in life, I could say no. I just said no across the board. It probably only lasted like a month or two, but over that time it was a very liberating experience, like incredibly liberating. So yeah, I think, and I guess just to conclude, I think life and self-love is, I don't know, in some ways it's just about giving permission to ourselves. Like it's like when we realize that it's okay, like what we want is okay, like how we want is okay. We don't have to justify it, but I think so many of us, including myself in the past, like we feel like it's not okay. Like we have to justify what we want and what we need, or whatever we're going to call it. And, even that is problematic if we have to justify, right? Like, meaning there's like, if we have to justify it, means in some levels we're not fully there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So I don't know, I could probably talk for 4 hours about this with you, but we're not going to do that. So, but yeah, that's all I can say is, I think it's like the alpha and the omega. It's everything. Self-love is like, at least for me, even I told you I wrote a book, and I think I'll just share this to end. Fuck it, I'll promote myself.
Yeah,
I'll be selfish.
you
This
just
is my
started.
book. Haha, it's
Yeah.
called Disassembly Required. And there's this poem that I wrote, and I think you'll like this one. It's called Wizards. And this is an actual story that happened. And this is it. I met a man doing Mayan birth chart readings at a friend's birthday party several years ago. He had the long white beard and dressed like a wizard, so of course I wanted one. It took about an hour before it was finally my turn. I don't remember most of it, but there was one thing he told me in particular that I'll never forget. He said, people will try to pull you away from your path. Don't let them. And that's it. For me, that was like a huge like aha moment that like, whether it was my parents who didn't like my path or didn't believe in it, because it didn't on the surface look like it was going to amount to anything like in the real world, I'm just like, I felt something inside that said like, follow your gut, follow your intuition. And like, he gave me permission to say, yeah, people are going to try to pull you away from your path. Don't let them. Right. So I kind of needed that. This was about 10 years ago, just a little bit. That like was like another level of reinforcement for me of just like, okay, cool. I'm having somebody else outside of myself say it's okay. Here's permission to ask for what to whatever, to live your life the way you want to live, so that was helpful as well.
I feel like I met that white-haired Mayan calendar reader.
Yeah.
Saw him, like long white beard.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
I was gonna say I could imagine. I don't remember his name, but like I wrote this. I'm like really proud because I'm like to me it's like he's dead now. I know that, but it's like I'm memorializing him in a way with my my little piece, like because it's such a powerful message. That's why I included it.
That's a great message. Yeah. So if people are interested in your book, where can they find it?
Oh wow! Thanks for asking. I forgot to mention. So yeah, it's my my website's got it. My name is Alex Obed. It's Alex Obed OBED.com.
That's fabulous, Alex. Thank you so much for the time and great topic.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I feel like it's fun to share, but I think it's so like I can't overstate it. It's so important. I think that I'm just glad that you're diving in, and I'm actually I'm following you, of course. So I'm really excited to see what other people say too, because I'm always on the lookout for more cool techniques and tricks and tips as to just like look at how, because it's not like I'm 100% always self-loving, so I'm like now it's more of like, can I catch myself when I'm not self-loving? That's the game that I'm on now. Can I catch myself in a quick way and then like come back to self-love? So anything that other people have to offer, I'm game and down to hear.
I love it. And not beating yourself up when you slip up.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I won't go there, but yeah, I think the beating ourselves up is probably at the heart of like all the opposite of self-love. And that's probably the hardest one. That might be the biggest challenge that I still face. It's not the biggest challenge. I mean, it is still the biggest challenge I probably still face is the beating ourselves up, because I think it's just like everybody does it, and I think to recognize when we're doing it and stop, and then say something nice about ourselves, to like, to turn it around, so I do that now. I mean, I'm like, Alex, you're an idiot. And then I'll be like, but I fucking love you, so yeah.
Nice save. Well, Alex, thank you again. I'm Elizabeth, bellyandbodycare.com, and I'm looking forward to hearing what other people have to say and continuing.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Alex.
Great to see you.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.